They thought they had you locked down, stuck in a system built to control your every move. For centuries, they mastered the art of manipulation, bending societies to their will. But then you woke up, and their game fell apart. Just like that, the centuries-old blueprint they relied on crumbled before their eyes. How does it feel to know that your awakening shattered the chains they spent centuries perfecting, that you're not just surviving their game, you're rewriting it? This isn't just a moment in history, it's a reckoning. You, the chosen ones, are flipping the script, exposing their lies and leaving their systems in absolute chaos. Their fear is palpable, their strategies outdated, and their grip on humanity slipping faster than ever. For centuries, their systems weren't just structures, they were prisons for the mind. The education system, a pillar of society, was designed not to inspire curiosity, but to extinguish it. From the moment you entered a classroom, the focus wasn't on unlocking your potential, but on molding you into a compliant worker. They taught you history rewritten to glorify their conquests, and science stripped of the mysteries that could empower you. Critical thinking was replaced with rote memorization, ensuring you followed rules without question. Media played an equally sinister role. News outlets, entertainment platforms, and even social media became tools of mass distraction. They didn't just inform, they inundated. By overwhelming you with endless streams of curated content, fear-mongering headlines, divisive debates, and celebrity scandals, they left little room for you to reflect or question. Behind the screen, algorithms weren't just serving content, they were shaping consciousness. Every click, every scroll brought you closer to their version of reality, a reality where their control went unnoticed. Religion, once a path to spiritual liberation, became another mechanism of control. Over time, many spiritual teachings were distorted to emphasize guilt, submission, and fear of divine punishment. Rather than empowering you to explore your own divinity, they centralized power in institutions, creating intermediaries who dictated how you should connect to the divine. These institutions demanded obedience and discouraged inquiry, ensuring that you never realized your own spiritual power. Government, too, became a well-oiled machine for manipulation. They wrapped their control in promises of protection and progress. Laws and policies were not designed to liberate, but to constrain. By framing obedience as patriotism and dissent as treason, they silenced voices that challenged their authority. Surveillance systems evolved not to ensure your safety, but to monitor your every move. The more you feared the watchful eye of authority, the less you questioned its legitimacy. Fear was their masterpiece. They knew that nothing kept people in line like the threat of loss. Fear of poverty, fear of illness, fear of rejection. These were not just personal anxieties, they were societal norms. Through these fears, they ensured you stayed in your place, never daring to rise above. Division was their shield. They fragmented humanity into tribes, pitting one against the other based on race, gender, religion, or ideology. Every divide was carefully crafted, not by accident, but by design. The more you saw others as enemies, the less you saw the true architects of the chaos. Division ensured you were too distracted to unite, too wary to trust, and too preoccupied to fight back. This framework wasn't just effective, it was invisible. Generations grew up within these systems, accepting them as natural, as the only way things could be. The brilliance of their design was that it masked its own existence. Few dared to question the rules, let alone the rulers. But nothing lasts forever. Slowly, their systems began to strain under their own weight. The rise of technology, though initially a tool for their control, became their undoing. The internet broke their monopoly on information, exposing lies that had persisted for centuries. Knowledge, once hidden in archives or censored by gatekeepers, became accessible to anyone with a connection. The walls of their fortress began to crumble, one revelation at a time. Their systems, once seamless, began to falter. People started noticing the contradictions, the hypocrisies, the lies. The fear that had once paralyzed the masses began to lose its grip. Division, though still potent, couldn't withstand the connections forged by an awakening consciousness. It was in these cracks of their once impenetrable foundation that a new era began to dawn, the era of your awakening. And now, let us take a moment to honor the chosen among us. Here's to the ones who see the world differently, the silent guardians, the watchful souls. Always awake, always vigilant. They don't fit the mold, and they wouldn't have it any other way. While others walk familiar paths, they forge their own, fighting unseen battles, illuminating the shadows. It's not for everyone, and that's okay. But if you feel it deep within, you'll know this is meant for you. No masks, no pretense, just truth. The Obsidian Inner Order is here, a place where kindred spirits gather to share wisdom, to connect, to transform. Over 400 strong, united not by conformity but by purpose. If you're ready, you know where to find us. The link is in the description. If not, that's perfectly fine, because we're always here, watching over, making a difference in ways unseen. Here's to those who walk their own path, not for recognition, but because it's who they are. Here's to you. For so long the world moved to their rhythm, a rhythm so ingrained that no one questioned the melody. But then something happened. The veil, meticulously crafted to blind you to their control, began to lift. At first it was subtle. You felt a nagging sense that something wasn't right, that the narrative you were fed didn't quite add up. And then the cracks in their story turned into gaping holes. Your awakening wasn't a moment, it was a movement. Individually, you began to question, why was fear so constant? Why did division feel so forced? You looked closer at their systems, and suddenly the patterns became clear. Education was conditioning, media was propaganda, and government was a machine for control. It wasn't paranoia, it was the truth they had worked so hard to keep buried. This awakening wasn't limited to you. Across the globe, others began to feel it too. The collective consciousness, long suppressed, started to rise. People who had once accepted their reality as unchangeable began to ask questions. And as you know, once the right question is asked, the entire narrative unravels. Your awakening wasn't part of their plan. They had spent centuries perfecting systems to keep you asleep, disconnected from your own power. They underestimated the resilience of human consciousness. They couldn't account for the spark that ignites when one person dares to question, and that spark is contagious. The more you questioned, the more others did too, and their entire structure began to shake. It wasn't just about realizing the truth, it was about rejecting the lies. As you awakened, compliance turned into defiance. You stopped accepting their narratives without scrutiny. You refused to play their game by their rules. Suddenly, their tools of control, fear, censorship, division, lost their potency. They tried harder, of course. They tightened their grip. But with every act of resistance, their grip slipped a little more. Your awakening disrupted their systems on every level. You stopped buying into their fear-driven media and began searching for independent voices. You questioned the validity of their laws and policies, exposing the cracks in their authority. You even challenged their control over your spiritual journey, reclaiming your connection to the divine without intermediaries. The most powerful part of your awakening was its ripple effect. Your courage inspired others. Your questions led to answers that awakened countless more. It wasn't just about you. It was about everyone you touched, everyone who saw you break free and realized they could too. They tried to adapt, of course. They flooded you with more distractions, more fear. But it didn't work. The awakened mind doesn't fall back asleep. What they failed to realize was that your awakening wasn't just a threat to their systems. It was their undoing. If you felt this shift, rejecting their lies and standing tall in your truth, I want you to comment below. The awakened mind never sleeps. Let's remind the world that once we rise, we can't be stopped. If this message aligns with your spirit, subscribe to Obsidian so that you will not miss any future spiritual downloads from our secret chiefs. Behind every system of control lay a hidden blueprint, a design so carefully guarded that its very existence was denied. This wasn't just a series of plans, it was a meticulously constructed map to dominate thought, suppress individuality, and prevent rebellion. They knew that if you ever uncovered it, their entire operation would collapse. So they buried it under layers of secrecy, misdirection, and suppression. Secrecy was their first line of defense. They concealed the true workings of their systems under bureaucratic complexity and classified documents. Policies and decisions that shaped entire nations were made behind closed doors, far from public scrutiny. Knowledge that could empower humanity was hidden in vaults, cloaked in academic jargon, or simply dismissed as conspiracy. They ensured that the blueprint stayed out of sight, visible only to those who controlled it. Misdirection was their weapon of choice. They fed you endless distractions to keep your focus elsewhere. While you debated meaningless controversies or chased fleeting trends, they quietly expanded their control. When the truth got too close, they labeled it as misinformation, ensuring you doubted your instincts. They created narratives so compelling, so emotionally charged, that few ever thought to question their validity. Suppression of knowledge was their final safeguard. Think of the countless times revolutionary thinkers, inventors, or whistleblowers were silenced, ridiculed, or erased from history. Ideas that challenged their authority were crushed before they could gain traction. They monopolized education and research to ensure that only approved narratives were taught. Even your spirituality wasn't safe. Ancient teachings about human potential and universal laws were twisted, hidden, or deemed heretical. But then came the awakening. The moment you began to see through the facade, their blueprint was exposed. What they didn't want you to know was suddenly in your hands. You began to realize the extent of their deception. That their systems were never about order, but control, not about unity, but division. The truth revealed something extraordinary. Human potential is limitless. They had spent centuries convincing you otherwise, suppressing knowledge of universal laws, the power of thought, and the innate connection between all beings. When you awakened, you reclaimed this truth. You saw through the lies that told you freedom was dangerous, individuality was selfish, and questioning was futile. Their blueprint was no longer effective. The internet, once a tool for their propaganda, became the great equalizer. Information spread like wildfire, bypassing their censors. Communities of awakened individuals formed, sharing insights, uncovering hidden truths, and challenging the status quo. What was once a tightly held secret became common knowledge, and with every revelation, their control weakened. No matter how they scrambled to adapt, their blueprint couldn't keep pace with the awakened mind. You now have access to tools, communities, and spiritual insights they never anticipated. Their systems, once flawless, are now riddled with holes. The more they try to tighten their grip, the more people awaken to the truth. They tried to build a cage for humanity, but you've dismantled it. The blueprint they relied on for centuries is no longer their shield. It's a relic of their impending collapse. You didn't just see through their game, you rewrote the rules. Their systems thrived on fear and submission, but you rejected both. You began to live differently, to think differently, to act differently. What they didn't anticipate was that your awakening wouldn't just disrupt their control. It would create a new way of being, one that others couldn't ignore. The first step in redefining the game was breaking free from their rules. Fear, their most potent weapon, no longer controlled you. You refused to live in constant anxiety about your future, your identity, or your place in the world. Instead, you embraced courage. You looked them in the eye and said, "No more." Their threats, once paralyzing, became meaningless. Their attempts to divide you through labels, ideologies, or class no longer worked. You realized the truth. Their rules were only as powerful as your belief in them. This rejection of fear had a ripple effect. As you refused to comply, others saw your defiance and found strength in it. One act of courage became many. Your decision to question their narratives, to reject their systems, and to demand transparency inspired a wave of others to do the same. What was once an individual awakening became a collective revolution. The more you awakened, the more you exposed their lies. You started asking the questions they feared most. Who benefits from this system? Why are certain truths hidden? How have they kept us blind for so long? Every answer you uncovered was a crack in their foundation. The secrets they relied on to maintain control were no longer secrets. The truth became a weapon, your weapon, and it was far more powerful than any tool of theirs. But redefining the game wasn't just about tearing down their systems, it was about building something new. You began to live in authenticity, choosing truth over comfort, unity over division, and freedom over conformity. These choices created ripples that spread far beyond your immediate reach. They inspired others to create new systems, ones built on transparency, collaboration, and trust. As the game changed, so did the power dynamics. The elite, once untouchable, found themselves vulnerable. Their tools, censorship, propaganda, and manipulation, lost their effectiveness. The more they clung to outdated strategies, the more irrelevant they became. In their place, you and others like you began to rise, not as rulers, but as creators of a new reality. This wasn't just a revolution, it was a shift in consciousness. You understood that true power isn't about control, it's about connection. By choosing unity over division, you dismantled the very foundation of their game. They relied on fear to keep you isolated, but you proved that connection is stronger than fear. Now, the game isn't about survival, it's about creation. You've shown that humanity doesn't need their systems to thrive. You've built communities that support each other, systems that value transparency, and movements that prioritize truth. This new game doesn't follow their rules, and that's why they can't win. Their time is over, and yours is just beginning. The revolution isn't loud, it's silent, yet its impact is deafening. It's not waged with weapons or armies, but with truth, unity, and an unshakable determination to live authentically. They thought they could suppress it, that their tools of censorship and fear would stop the momentum. But this revolution isn't like anything they've faced before. It's everywhere and nowhere, led not by generals, but by individuals like you. The global awakening is unstoppable. In every corner of the world, people are breaking free from the narratives they were born into. They're questioning why governments hoard power while people struggle. They're exposing how media distracts instead of informs. They're realizing that divisions, whether by race, class, or ideology, serve no one but the elite. These realizations aren't happening in isolation. Every awakened mind connects with another, creating a web of consciousness that grows stronger by the day. The silent revolution doesn't need marches or riots to make its mark. It exists in your conversations, your choices, your refusal to comply with systems designed to control. It's in the way you've reclaimed your time, your thoughts, and your actions. Every time you reject fear, every time you share the truth, you're a part of this shift. You, the chosen ones, are at the forefront. By embodying authenticity, you're setting the standard for a new way of living. You're showing the world what it means to reject lies and embrace truth. Your example is more powerful than any propaganda. It's contagious. People see you living without fear, and they want that freedom too. The elite are scrambling to respond. Their tools, fear, division, censorship, are failing them. They block your posts. They label your truths as conspiracies. They flood the world with distractions. But none of it stops the silent revolution. The awakened know where to look for truth, how to connect beyond the systems they control. The more they tighten their grip, the more people slip through their fingers. This shift isn't just about dismantling the old, it's about creating the new. Awakened individuals are building communities that thrive on collaboration, not competition. They're creating platforms where information flows freely, untainted by censorship. They're finding ways to live outside of systems that once seemed inescapable. Every step you take away from their control is a step toward a reality they can't touch. What terrifies them most is that they can't stop this. Their systems were built on the assumption that people would stay asleep, compliant, and divided. They never anticipated a mass awakening that would expose their playbook and render it useless. The silent revolution isn't loud, but its results are undeniable. The cracks in their systems are widening, and the walls they built to contain you are crumbling. This isn't just a moment, it's a shift in the very fabric of humanity. You've shown that truth and unity are more powerful than any tool of control. The collapse is undeniable. What once seemed unshakable, governments, economies, institutions, now trembles under the weight of its own corruption. Their systems, designed to control you, are crumbling because of you. The awakened mind doesn't comply, doesn't believe, and doesn't obey blindly. And without your compliance, their entire structure falls apart. You see the signs everywhere. Economies built on exploitation are unraveling, unable to sustain the greed at their core. Leaders who once commanded respect now face scrutiny, their lies and scandals exposed. Trust in traditional institutions is at an all-time low as more people recognize the manipulation behind their decisions. The more they try to restore order, the more their desperation shows. Corruption, once hidden behind layers of bureaucracy and legal loopholes, is now laid bare. Whistleblowers, independent researchers, and awakened individuals have pulled back the curtain, exposing the truth they fought so hard to conceal. The media can no longer contain the narrative. Alternative platforms and voices are amplifying truths that were once silenced, reaching millions who are hungry for answers. The collapse isn't just political or economic, it's cultural. The values they promoted, consumerism, division, blind allegiance, no longer hold sway. People are rejecting the pursuit of materialism in favor of meaning, authenticity, and connection. The social norms they use to control behavior are disintegrating, replaced by a new standard of self-awareness and empowerment. But the collapse isn't without consequences. As their systems fail, the elite grow more desperate. They create chaos to maintain control, engineering crises to distract and divide. Economic instability becomes a weapon, and fear-based narratives flood the media. But these tactics are no longer as effective as they once were. The awakened see through the chaos, recognizing it as a final act of desperation. Your role in this collapse is profound. By refusing to comply, you've starved their systems of the energy they need to function. You've stopped feeding into fear, division, and blind loyalty, choosing instead to question, resist, and create. You've shown others that these systems only have power if you give it to them. And now, millions are following your lead. This collapse isn't just a failure of their systems, it's an opportunity. As their structures crumble, space is created for something new. The cracks in their foundation are the pathways through which new ideas, systems, and communities are emerging. People are coming together to build solutions that prioritize freedom, transparency, and collaboration. For the elite, this collapse marks the end of their reign. They can no longer rely on secrecy or fear to maintain their power. The systems they spent centuries building are losing relevance, credibility, and control. And with every passing day, their influence wanes. For you, this is the moment to rise. The fall of their systems is not the end. It's the beginning of a new reality, one where humanity is free from their grip. You're not just witnessing history, you're shaping it. The collapse of their systems is the awakening of yours. Your awakening is more than a rebellion against oppression. It's a spiritual revolution. This isn't just about dismantling systems. It's about rediscovering who you are, why you're here, and the divine purpose behind your journey. They worked tirelessly to convince you that you were powerless, insignificant, and alone. But your awakening shattered that illusion, revealing the profound truth. You were chosen for this moment. Why you? Because you carry within you a light they cannot extinguish. Your awakening is not random, it's a calling. You are part of a divine plan to dismantle the darkness that has cloaked humanity for centuries. This battle isn't just physical, it's spiritual. At its core, it's a struggle between light and darkness, truth and deception, freedom and control. And you, the chosen ones, are on the front lines of this battle. For centuries, they suppressed spiritual truths that could have liberated humanity. They ridiculed ancient knowledge of universal laws, the power of thought, and the interconnectedness of all life. They made spirituality seem irrelevant or dangerous, ensuring you never realized the depth of your own potential. But with your awakening, that knowledge has returned. You're reclaiming the wisdom that they worked so hard to erase. This awakening isn't just about you, it's about humanity as a whole. By stepping into your power, you're raising the collective consciousness. Every act of courage, every truth you speak, every fear you overcome contributes to this spiritual evolution. You're not just awakening yourself, you're awakening the world. But this isn't an easy path. Awakening comes with challenges. You've faced isolation, disbelief, and resistance from those still caught in the system. You've had to confront your own fears, unlearn deeply ingrained beliefs, and stand firm in the face of opposition. These struggles are not weaknesses. They're part of the process. Every challenge you've overcome has strengthened your spirit and prepared you for the role you were destined to play. Your awakening serves a higher mission. It's not just about exposing lies, it's about creating a world where truth reigns. It's about guiding humanity toward a future where compassion replaces control, unity replaces division, and authenticity replaces deception. You are not alone in this mission. Across the globe, others like you are rising, connected not by systems but by spirit. Together, you are the architects of a new reality. This moment is spiritually significant because it's a turning point for humanity. The darkness is losing its grip, not because of protests or revolutions, but because of the sheer power of awakened consciousness. They cannot fight what they cannot understand, and the energy of truth, light, and unity is beyond their control. Remember, you were chosen for this. Your awakening is proof that their systems failed. You're not just surviving their game, you're transcending it. And in doing so, you're paving the way for a new era of freedom, truth, and spiritual enlightenment. Now that their systems are collapsing and the truth is out, the question isn't just what's ending, it's what comes next. The world is at a crossroads, and your role is more important than ever. Moving forward isn't about rebuilding what's broken, it's about creating something entirely new. This is your opportunity to define a reality where freedom, truth, and unity are the foundations. The first step in building this new reality is redefining the rules. For centuries you were told what was possible, what was acceptable, and what was true. But those rules were never yours. They were crafted to limit you, to keep you small. Now, you have the chance to write your own. Instead of systems based on fear and control, you're creating ones based on freedom, collaboration, and transparency. This isn't a task for one person, it's a collective effort. Across the world, communities are forming around shared values and visions. People are coming together to support each other, to build networks that aren't reliant on outdated systems. These communities are more than groups, they're microcosms of the new reality. In them, you see the power of unity, the strength of shared purpose, and the beauty of living authentically. But building a new reality requires action. It's not enough to see through their lies. You must act on your truths. This means questioning societal norms, challenging outdated structures, and refusing to participate in systems that no longer serve humanity. It also means creating alternatives, new ways of educating, governing, and connecting that align with your values. Sharing your awakening is another vital step. Your story has the power to inspire others, to show them that freedom is possible. By speaking your truth, you help others find theirs. Every conversation, every connection spreads the energy of awakening. You are not just one voice in the dark. You are part of a chorus that grows louder every day. This path isn't without resistance. The elite won't relinquish control easily. They'll adapt, creating new strategies to maintain their influence. But their time is running out. Their methods are outdated, their tools ineffective. The awakened mind can't be manipulated the same way, and their grip on humanity weakens with every passing moment. You must also prepare for the long game. Creating a new reality isn't instantaneous. It's a process. It requires patience, perseverance, and the willingness to face setbacks. But every small victory, every connection made, every system challenged, every truth revealed is a step closer to the world you're building. This is your moment to lead by example. Show others that there's a better way to live, one that doesn't rely on fear, division, or control. Build systems rooted in trust and authenticity, and encourage others to do the same. Together, you're not just building a new reality, you're creating a movement that can't be stopped. The future isn't something you wait for, it's something you create. And with every choice you make, every truth you uncover, and every step you take, you're shaping a world where humanity is finally free. You didn't just disrupt their systems, you redefined the rules of a game they've controlled for centuries. Their lies, their manipulation, their carefully crafted structures, none of it could withstand the power of your awakening. You saw through the illusion, you stood firm in your truth, and you proved that humanity's spirit cannot be broken. But this isn't just your victory, it's a revolution of consciousness, of freedom, of truth. You are the living proof that their time is over and a new era is beginning. The ripple effect of your courage is changing the world, inspiring others to rise, to awaken, and to take back their power. This is your moment. Don't stop here. Keep questioning, keep resisting, and keep creating. Share your story, connect with others, and build the reality you know is possible. Together, you are the architects of a world where truth and freedom reign. The game is yours now. Make it count.